our perseverance is scary. We reach success by any means necessary, and for our freedom, we fight like renegades. Why you think on Juneteenth we celebrate better days? You see, we are the definition of greatness, and there's no gaslighting that. Black joy, yeah, we spotlighting that. And for justice, we gonna stay fighting back. As a matter of fact, we was all born for that. And history should inform you that we don't need a door for that.
Hey you guys, it's me, Jay. Welcome to the 5th episode of the Heart of Heritage series, Juneteenth, baby. I am so excited. I cannot believe who I get to sit with. Listen, you know I'm gonna go down a little bit of a list. You're the originator behind this series. You are the director of diversity, equity, inclusion, and change management, a trusted advisor, and the list goes on here for STG. You guys, welcome to this amazing space, Aaron Reeder, man.
Thanks for having me on this side.
Yes, because you want to be behind the scenes. I said, we're going to bring you to the forefront because I think it's great just to hear from the one that said, you know what, let's do something. Let's make a difference. And I remember that phone call. You're like, Jay, let's create something that amplifies people's voices. Yeah. And you know what? You are doing it. And not only that, y'all, listen, not only that, he also has his own podcast show. I mean, I'm going all in. He's amplifying dads, the history of stories. So you are a storyteller within yourself, but we're here to talk about Juneteenth. But I'm just really grateful for you, man, because you gave me a yes to be the host of this series. So, you know, hats off to you.
You know what? The feeling is mutual because I think being able to find someone that has the same vision and inspired by the same things just makes it easy.
Yeah. Well, let's jump right into this. Yeah. It's Juneteenth. I'm excited to talk about this with you. But when you think about it personally, what does Juneteenth mean to you, Aaron?
I would say for me, Juneteenth means inherited resilience that we get from our ancestors. Yeah. That gets passed down from generation to generation. I think it is also something that allows you the opportunity to highlight joy. Yeah. And joy being an act of resistance, a part of that Juneteenth celebration and story. I think it gets forgotten sometimes about joy, but really it's about the inherited resilience that we get passed down to continue the fight. So that's kind of what it means to me outside of, you know, the definition that we see around, you know, emancipation and ending slavery. I think it's deeper than that. Yeah. So it's just about that resilience that keeps going.
And I think there's something to be said about resilience within our own people. That's all like we know. Yeah. You know, it's pulling on that, like you said, it's like that deep joy. Yeah. When everything around you is like, it's a no. Yeah. Somehow you're giving yourself your own yes. And so I think you're right. It's like this built-in resilience that we pull on just to keep on going. Yeah. As someone working at the intersection of DEI and arts culture, how do you see the role of theater and performance in honoring Juneteenth?
Yeah, I mean, definitely theater and performance plays a critical role in honoring history. It creates the opportunity for all walks of life, young folks to essentially connect to history. I think theater performance has had this ability to force you to feel it. So it forces you to feel history. It forces you to really sit with it and to process what you're watching. I also think it gives you the opportunity to be in two places at once because it allows you to see the history. Yes. To feel that, to be present, but then also to be sitting in the seat right there and what you walk away with from that. So I think it's that. And at the same time, it gives you the opportunity to reclaim. I think it allows you to reframe and also reimagine what history has done and what it can be done, what can be done in the future. So,
Well, we're sitting in a room right now that amplifies somebody's voice.
Absolutely.
What is this room? This is the
Ernestine Anderson room.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about this room. Like, why? Look at this history. Look at this stuff. I mean, it's just like, this wasn't even part of my questions, but I was like, I have to highlight this beautiful woman and this history, and just look at this.
I mean, being able to have somebody that was a pioneer in Seattle on the music scene, Black woman, phenomenal voice, and to be in this space, in this building, and bless Seattle in ways that she entrenched history, leaving history here.
Wow.
It's just important to honor spaces and honor what the people before us have done. And so having something like this is really iconic, and I think it leaves a message for anyone that comes through this space.
Right.
Any artist that is on our stages, to be able to look up and see Ernestine Anderson there and know that she left a mark. I think it's something that you can't, you just can't define. You can't, you know what I'm saying? Like,
and this is the green room space for all the artists that come through. So you're right. This is huge to be able to come in and be like, you meet history, and you actually can see the photos of who she was and what she's done. So thank you.
And it kind of forces you to meet.
Yeah.
Even if you didn't want to, like, you're gonna meet it.
We are here.
See it.
This is resilience in the photos right here. So thank you, the great Ernestine Anderson. Can you share a moment, either recent or growing up, that shaped your connection to Black liberation and history? Go ahead. Dive in, man.
Gosh, so that's a deep question. Years ago, I went on a civil rights pilgrimage.
Ooh.
And so this was 7 days on a charter bus, going through Mississippi.
Oh my goodness.
Going through Montgomery, going through Selma. Just being able to go through these places on this 7-day trip.
Wow.
And be in these spaces in time where you know what happened in that space. Crossing the Edmund Pettus Bridge and knowing the blood and the tears that went across that bridge, leaving just a lasting impression. Walking in Medgar Evers' home, and feeling the resilience. We talked about resilience. Feeling the resilience in the floorboards when you walk through there, and seeing images of what had happened. It's almost like you could touch a part of that room, and it almost felt like you were there when it was happening.
Wow.
So being able to be in that space, going to the 16th Street Baptist Church, where those beautiful 4 little girls were murdered with the bombing, and I have children.
Yes.
And so walking through that and feeling the connection of the love that was lost, just everything that happened in that space, it touches you in a way that you will never be able to replicate. I think when you live in Pacific Northwest or on the West Coast, you don't have access to some of these historical sites.
It's a little bit of a bubble, don't you?
Yeah, you don't have access to these historical sites. And so I learned so much history in that 7 days that was more than any history I'd ever learned through any textbook.
Wow.
And so it was really powerful. I felt connected to the history. And then I would say that the part about liberation, I don't know if we will truly reach liberation. When you look at what has happened in the past, where we are today, the current state of the world, I think liberation is something that we will strive for, but may not necessarily arrive at. And so for me, it's looking outside of liberation and looking towards the ways in which we can make change.
Well, in your work with change management, what's a breakthrough moment that made you believe change is possible?
I think definitely for me, it was shifting from a place of me asking why someone is doing something or why something is the way it is. I think it was also a moment in my career where I moved away from trying to fix people.
Because we can't fix anybody.
We can't fix anybody. And when you're in these spaces, especially early in my life, I would see an instance or be a part of an experience and really want to say, like, we need to fix that person. Like, that person is, something's wrong with them. They need to be fixed. And so the shift for me happened when I moved from that to understanding systems and understanding that both are at play at the same time.
Right.
And so I need to find a way to change and fix the system, or be a part of that change.
Yeah.
I think that was a big change management moment for me. And just moving away from the why and turning into what can I do?
Yes.
So, I mean, we can spend time in the why, and it's important to know why people do what they do. But sometimes people don't know what they don't know.
Right.
And
the why is exhausting.
The why is exhausting. The why is exhausting, and you can't change what anyone does. So for me, it's about understanding the systems that are in play, because systems are silent, they're loud, they're quiet, they move in the shadows, they're overt, they're covert.
Wow.
All of these things happen at once. So the more you can understand systems and the impacts that it has, I think when I realized that, I hit a shift in my mind.
Wow.
Of how I approach the work that I do, and how I preserve myself in that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, how do you personally, thinking of preserving, how do you personally hold space for joy and rest during Juneteenth, when so much of your work is about pushing through the barriers? Because like I said, it can be very exhausting. I have said this, and maybe I'm right or wrong, but for me, being Black in America today is exhausting. Because you constantly feel like you're having to push and push. So how do you find rest and joy personally?
I think really it's about, one, remembering some of the messages and things that we received long ago. So the late, great Audre Lorde, who eloquently and beautifully said that, caring for myself is not self-indulgence, but is self-preservation.
Wow.
And so taking that message and bringing it to my life today. So when Juneteenth comes around, yes, there's the moments of service, community service, and giving back, but it's also teaching my family, being able to rest is important. That's a part of the work.
Right.
And so doing something that our ancestors didn't get enough of. They didn't get enough to just be free and present.
Right.
And just be.
Right.
And so it's honoring that through just being, whether that's spending time with my family, loving on my family, relaxing, put my feet up for once. You know what I'm saying? Like, because without that and without the joy in doing that, all there is continuously work and grind and all the things, and you don't get a chance to heal.
That part right there.
You don't get to heal, and healing is important. You can't you can't do things for other people if you're on E.
And how many of us in this world today are operating not from overflow, but from a cup that is just completely, like there's a drop of something in there, and it's gone.
Because we walk around with this mask. When people ask, how are you doing? I think as Black people, we are constantly in a space to be like, I'm good. Yeah, I'm good.
That's the same.
But underneath that, you are drained, you're tired. Because you're navigating, negotiating spaces all day, every day of your life. You're navigating the mirror when you look into the mirror.
Every day,
So for me, it's all about rest.
Right.
We're gonna give back, we're gonna do some service, and then we're gonna come home. We're gonna dive deep in joy, love, and celebrate that and honor our ancestors by just being.
I think it's a natural gift. This sounds crazy, but I think it's a natural gift that God has given us as Black people. We don't look like what we've gone through. And I think it's just this resilience, and it's hard at times to find that rest. But I look at you, and I don't know what age you are. I don't know. I'm like, he's just a brother in these streets living and changing the game. And I think that's somewhere you can see that this man probably takes time out to find some rest.
And you know what I've noticed in the last few years is when I've been able to embrace, someone else that looks like me. Not just the handshake, not the head nod. When I've been able to embrace, I can feel that they needed a rest. That I needed a rest. And I think we can feel that communication happen.
Yeah.
So it's just a reminder to rest.
What role do you believe Black storytelling plays in healing, not just for our community, but for the institution?
I definitely think that it plays one of the most critical roles that we could ever have, storytelling. I mean, our history has been lost.
Yes.
And we had to use storytelling to do that. And so I think storytelling, especially from the Black experience, allows the opportunity to give voice to the silenced. I think that it creates the opportunity for young people to feel connected to history.
Yes.
To feel like they're a part of the history.
Right.
And it also just allows us the opportunity to really understand what we've gone through, to reimagine it.
Yeah.
Because through storytelling, I can change the narrative in a way that it's not all about revisiting the memories.
Yes.
It's not all about looking at what happened and let's sit with that. No, I want to show you that, but I also want you to feel hope.
Yes.
I want you to feel ignited and powerful and strong. All the things that you may not see in that photo. Things you may not feel when you touch, the Edmund Pettus Bridge.
Right.
I want to be able to create now a story in which I can take you on a journey.
Even in moments like this.
Yeah.
This is hope. To think that you fast forward, just go back, this wasn't happening.
Yeah.
Or two, individuals can sit and talk about history, talk about pain, talk about rest, and what we hope for in the future. Yeah. So yes, do we have a long ways to go? You bet. Yeah. But I celebrate the fact of a moment like this, where we could sit down and have a conversation like that. So now I want to ask you, if you could sit down with one of your ancestors this Juneteenth, what would you want them to know about the work you are doing today?
I want them to know I'm still fighting in their honor.
Yeah.
I want them to know I'm not alone in that fight.
Yeah.
I want them to know that through their voice, I found storytelling. Through their struggle, I find storytelling. And that I am their dreams. I am their hopes. And that's what we tell our young folks, but we don't tell it to ourselves. And I would really want to sit and say, I got you.
Right.
I got you.
Yeah.
So.
Wow.
Yeah.
How do we ensure that the next generation doesn't observe Juneteenth, but feels personally connected to it?
Well, we have to make it relevant to young folks. Yeah. I think for a lot of people, Juneteenth is a date.
Yeah.
Right? The 19th comes. When the 20th gets here, we're on to the next thing.
Right.
So it's making it relevant. It's involving young people, allowing them the space to create their connection to the work. I think about our program, Elevate.
Right.
And which is one that is centered around Black voices using spoken word poetry, right, connected to Juneteenth, allowing them the space and the creativity to feel connected to that time of the year. And so I think it's important that we be intentional about making sure it's relevant.
Right.
So that's kind of what I see in terms of how Juneteenth can really be more present nowadays. Because we talk about it from a very calendar perspective.
Right.
For me, Juneteenth is not just June.
No, it's the whole
I live Juneteenth. I live
it. Yeah.
Sitting in this room, I see that. That's Juneteenth.
Right. Yeah.
Right. That represents freedom and the freedom to use voice, the freedom to move people, to leave lasting memories with folks.
Yeah.
So our young people have that capability. We just have to put it in a way that let them shape it and mold it. Let them create it.
Right. Well, lastly, what gives you hope right now, both in the work and in the world, Aaron?
I think hope is, for me, this work is no longer silent. It's not a whisper.
Right.
We're loud. We're creative. Change is strategic. We're doing things that are smarter now. We're finding ways to organize differently. So I think that gives me hope. But I'll be honest, it's a fine line. This hope is a fine line.
It is.
Because when I think about the folks coming up after us, and how generations have shifted, how story and narrative has not been passed down.
Right.
How strategy hasn't been passed down to generations. And there was a lot that went into that in order for us to be where we are. It took strategy. It took organizing.
Right.
It took research. It took sacrifice. It took looking beyond our individual selves to say, hey, we're all going to boycott something. You know, that required people to boycott that.
Yeah.
They didn't want to boycott.
No.
Not everybody was like, yo, I'm going to do it. Some were like,
right.
But it took strategy. It took commitment. It took looking outside of ourselves. And so hope for me is understanding that that possibility is still there. And if I can connect with the generations after me and give them the tools that they need, it makes me feel as though they are equipped to carry on the work movement going forward.
Wow. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to sit with me. And you don't need to just be behind the camera.
No.
It's good to have you on the camera. And I know I really do appreciate, because it's conversations like these, like I've always said, it gives space for people to grow. And in order for something to grow, you have to be uncomfortable. So you have to have conversations like this where maybe it's like, oh, I didn't know that, or ow, that kind of hurts. It's okay, you know, and finding the beauty in the history and how you were able just to beautifully tell what Juneteenth is means so much. So thank you for taking the time to do this, man.
Thank you.
I appreciate you.
Thank you.
You do it again? You will.